For those of you that have been subscribed to this channel, you may have noticed that recently I've been making some more Nimzowitsch Defense content, which is a strong, fun, and rare chess opening for black against the move of e4, in which case we fight for the center, but without using a pawn on the first move. We're simply developing our minor piece on the queen side and really going after dark squares like e5 and d4. And here's the thing, if you see a move like d4, you can go into d5 with the Scandinavian variation. I know a lot of you guys enjoy that. I personally like the Kennedy variation with the move of e5. Both the Kennedy and the Scandinavian variations are top tier. But what if your opponent goes, you know what, I see what you're doing here. I don't want to go into all that theory that I probably don't know much about. I'm going to play the move knight f3, go into the Nimzowitsch Defense Declined. Well, what options do we have here? One of them is playing d6 with the Williams variation. Another option is to play this move of e5. Now, if you're an e4, e5 player, this could be a great option. Maybe you like the Scandinavian variation. Maybe you like the Nimzowitsch defense, and you like the ability to go back into an e4, e5 opening if your opponent ends up declining the Nimzowitsch defense. That's a great option. But if you're not an e4, e5 player, and you don't want to play the move of d6 with the Williams variation, another fun option that you have is f5 with the Colorado Gambit or Colorado Counter Gambit. And I recently made a video on this as well, covering the theory, the tricks, the traps, the ideas, all that kind of stuff. And it's surprisingly dangerous. I mean, if you look at the statistics online, black wins an overwhelming percentage of these games in online chess. Black wins this position more often than white does. Now, that said, is this sound? No, but it's rare, right? And it is dangerous. It's very easy for white to fall into trouble very quickly if they're not careful. There's a lot of lines where it seems like white's crushing, but it's actually the opposite. And the best thing white can do here is capture the pawn. And in this video, we're going to be covering a game that I played recently with this Colorado Gambit and just giving you my approach to the types of positions that can arise. But before we get into that, another rare strong chess opening for black is the Nimzowitsch Defense. And I recently made an over 6-hour course on that chess opening system for black. I put a lot of work into it. For those of you that get it, I hope that you enjoy it. Up until the end of this month, I'm giving out a 30% off discount code. All you got to do, go down to the description below. Go down to the pinned comment, plug in the discount code CheckPierce2024, and you will receive 30% off on that course. Again, only good until the end of the month of September in 2024. So get on over there. I hope that you guys enjoy it. But going back to this game here, so my opponent takes on f5. That's the best move. I play d5. My opponent, again, plays the best move of bishop to b5. Now, I've recently, I've seen this move g4, right? High-level player play g4 against me. Is this a good move? No, really bad. We can play h5, go after this pawn. If you take, you have 2 sets of double isolated pawns. If you push, f5 is still weak. And if you defend the pawn, well, sure, you're not going down a pawn, but you are losing your rook. And guess what? It's only move 6, and your bishop is pinned to your king. Pretty rare you hear that, right, when we're talking about opening theory. So d5 is played. White can fall into trouble very quickly after g4 or knight h4. In fact, after both of those, the engine says that black is simply better. What should white do here? Just give the pawn back. Pin our knight, right? In that case, we will take. And here's where my opponent made their first mistake. Okay, white should have played the move of knight e5. Now, again, if you look at the stats, how often does white take the pawn, then pin the knight, then go after the knight with a move like knight e5? Not very often, because the Nimzowitsch defense in and of itself is very rare, so you don't have a lot of e4 players prepping for it, let alone the Colorado Gambit. So you are going to catch players by surprise. You are going to get that advantage in prep, and that's what can lead to a fun game, okay, especially in those quicker time controls, bullet, blitz, all that kind of stuff. If you do see this, which I consider to be the refutation of the Colorado Gambit, you can bring your bishop back to d7. If white takes, okay, we capture back. And honestly, I think white should just take the bishop and just develop, right? We're going to end up with some pretty terrible pawn structure. And sure, the material's even, but we have some big weaknesses that white can go after. And I'm not going to say it's completely lost, but we definitely have an uphill battle. Okay, we have a lot of holes, a lot of weaknesses that our opponent can go after. And they're also up in development there. So that's what white should do. But even here, queen h5 looks crushing, right? Taking the pawn on g6. We can play knight f6. Guess what? You got to play queen h4 or queen h3 so that you keep an eye on this rook. At this point, we could play rook g8. We could also take the knight and now play d4. Now, we're down 3 points of material, but the engine only has white around +1. So that shows us that, okay, sure, we're still not even here technically, but we have a lot of compensation for those 3 points of material. A lot of compensation, right? And at this point in the game, our bishop is attacking the hanging pawn on g2. Our queen can get involved very quickly. We can castle queenside. We're gonna start attacking like crazy. And this is checkmate or bust for black. You got to checkmate white, or you got to get material back. If you don't do that, you're simply lost. But I think white also feels the pressure in this kind of situation. So bishop takes f5. My opponent misses this. move of knight e5. And if you do see your opponent play a move like castle kingside, guess what? You can play e6. Right now, if knight e5, you can play knight e7. This is a whole different story now. We don't have to bring our bishop back to d7. Our knight is able to defend the knight on c6. We have ideas like a6. We have ideas like g6 and bishop g7, fianchettoing our second bishop. And black here with a fighting chance to get a win here. And going back to e6, my opponent played the move d4. Now, somehow, according to the engine, for the rest of this game, I believe I played the best move every single time. Pretty rare that happens, but okay, here we go. So bishop d6. Okay, and by the way, when I say that, I'm not bragging, saying I'm the greatest player ever. What I'm trying to say is, okay, the Colorado Gambit, when you get positions like this, they're very natural, right? They're very easy to play. The positions kind of play themselves a little bit. I mean, this bishop, for example, is it the most active on e7 or d6? Well, d6. Rook e1 is played. Let's develop our knight. Why not? Now, my opponent should have played the move of c4. Instead, we have the move of knight g5. More on that in a moment. But, you know, white here should develop their pieces while putting pressure, right? Not just put pressure, but develop while doing so. I mean, c4. If we take the bishop captures back, we castle kingside. Here, white can go up a pawn. We play queen d7, yeah, white has an advantage here, but again, it's very easy for white to mess these kinds of positions up. If d5, especially in those quicker time controls, if d5, guess what? We just take the pawn, and you can't even take back because you lose your queen. This is about to be game over. So knight f6 is played again. I think white should, you know, c4, knight c3, maybe look towards pinning our knight. But we instead have this move of knight g5 in the game. And honestly, I resonate with this move. It makes sense. We're taught in chess to go after weaknesses. This pawn on e6 is extremely weak. But when I'm playing the Colorado Gambit and I get these kinds of positions, I'm okay with you using a bunch of moves, right? You already moved your knight once, then a second time, now a third time, and you're trading down. And all that time you spent, guess what? We were developing. We now have the move of knight e4. Both our knight and our rook going down against that pawn on f2. Our bishop is very active as well. The queen is ready to launch into this game. And the engine move here is white just giving up the exchange. But we have the move of bishop e3, and now I'm able to play bishop takes h2 with check. Now, my opponent captured, in which case queen h4 was the move there. By the way, if king h1, we still have queen h4. If king f1, I probably would have played queen h4, but the engine move is knight takes f2 and then queen h4, the whole idea being that it's a bishop that's pinned, and we can keep going after that minor piece. I mean, in this case, we could play bishop g3. We could take on d4, going after two hanging pieces. Yeah, I mean, white's in major trouble right now. But okay, my opponent captures back. I throw in a check, and I take the pawn on f2. Here's the deal. If you just move your queen somewhere, you saved your queen, but the game's over now on move 14. So white has to be very careful here. We see the move of bishop captures. I take back with the queen, and here's the kind of situation, right? We're attacking and we're down in material. Okay, when you're playing the Colorado Gambit, you're going down a pawn very quickly. And sure, like in this game, I got the pawn back pretty fast, which is honestly what white should do. White should just give that pawn back. But again, I sacrificed my bishop on h2. I'm going after the king, guys. I can't just offer a little trade here. Okay, I can't just play really passively in a position like this. I have to put the pressure on white. I have to play attacking chess, because if I get into the endgame and I'm down material, guess what? I'm just dead lost. So how can we put more pressure on this king? Well, by rook lifting. Is rook f6 good? No. We're down material and we're attacking, and now we want to trade? That doesn't make much sense. Rook f5, is that good? Nope. The queen covers. So I play this move of rook f4, threatening a mate in 1. The engine move here is actually queen h5, which, I mean, yeah, at that point, let's just play rook h4 and get the queen. But my opponent plays a move g4 and then resigns after playing it. Okay, it turns out black here can play queen h4 check, bring the rook to f2. We're going to get a mate on h2, y'all. I mean, white can prolong it, but we're just going to capture back, and we can pre-move queen h2 here. No matter what white does, it's going to be game over. Okay, so the Colorado Gambit, very fun option. Okay, especially in those faster time controls coming out of the Nimzowitsch defense. I'm a big fan of it. And again, that pawn on e6, it's weak, but white should realize, look, that pawn's going to be weak forever. White needs to develop their pieces and then go after it at the right moment. If you waste too much time in the opening going after that pawn on e6, go ahead, take it. While you're doing that, I'm going to develop my knight, I'm going to castle, and all of a sudden the floodgates are going to start going crazy against that king on the king side of the board. And yeah, the Colorado Gambit, a lot of fun. It performs extremely well. Very stark winning percentage, stark contrast there when we look at white and black. If you look on the Lichess database, plug it in, right? See how white does in those types of positions. it's very obvious that most players just don't know what the heck to do with it. And honestly, most players, when they see it, they probably don't even know what it's called. They probably just think their opponent's playing really bad. But I'll just say, hope you enjoyed this one. And remember, for the Check Pierce course, all you got to do, right? We have until the end of the month of September to get that 30% off. Plug in the discount code CheckPierce2024. You will get that 30% off. And if you get it, I hope you enjoy it. The Check Pierce top tier opening. The Colorado Gambit, right? It's fun. Okay, number one. But when we think about it, it is rare, and that's good. Having a rare chess opening in and of itself is a good thing, because that means your opponent is probably not very well prepped for it, but it's not sound. Okay, the Check Pierce, on the other hand, is rare and it's sound. So when you combine those two things together, you get very dangerous results, including when you're playing over the board tournament chess. I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of September in 2024. I appreciate y'all a ton. It's been great getting to know you guys. And for those of you that haven't thought about joining the Patreon, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And if you guys do join, I'm excited to start talking to you guys over on the platform. On top of that, guys, here's the thing. Look, it's September. Okay, it's September. There's only so much time left to get that Check Pierce Defense course. Click the link. Click the freaking link, plug in the discount code, get your 30% off, only good until the end of the month, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Let's get it.